The three biggest myths on self-motivation that just won't go away. Why won't they go away? Let's break them down. And what are you trying to motivate yourself towards anyway? Who are you trying to be? Where are you getting this information from? And what's waiting for you on the other side of the rainbow? The myths. First one, just write down your goals and success is guaranteed. Whilst I would concur that having clarity around what you're trying to achieve certainly makes it easier at least to know what you're trying to do if you're trying to start a business or a movement, a political protest activist movement, or whatever it is you're trying to do, having a kind of a vision helps you to clarify your own thoughts, and you know, like in relationships, what you can be talking to people about, because you're like, well, what I'm trying to achieve is I need to raise this much money, or I need to go here, and I need to do, you know, that makes sense, I suppose, but it's still going to require action. It's not an end point, is it? Just try to do your best. Well, again, that's a ridiculous myth, because it's there are limitations, and often we are operating under bogus and erroneous input and stimuli. Just visualize success. Again, each of these things are superficially at least sort of true. You know, I once saw this brilliant video about the javelin guy, Steve, I can't remember his name anymore, but he said that when he got an injury, he carried on training in his mind, visualizing exactly everything he did. And when the injury eventually healed, he sort of hadn't dropped off as much as the physicians anticipated he might have done. All things are happening ultimately in consciousness, and even though there's an anatomical component in something as obvious as Steve Backen, you all know, if you keep if the body is injured, you can't do that, but the consciousness, the mind, that you can continue to engage in through visualization. However, in and of itself, you know, ultimately stuff that's achieved in the material world will require material action. But regardless of whether or not you write down your goals, try your best to succeed and visualize success, the outcome of these actions is still in question, because where are we getting these paradigms from? Whose definition of success are we operating in accordance with? We are saying, I am saying, oh, Russ, your friend on your phone, is saying that much of our association with success through work is a sort of a political and philosophical idea that can be traced to Max Weber, the Protestant work ethic, the sort of relative financial success of Northern European countries versus Southern European countries because of the advent of and success of Protestantism in those territories versus the ongoing Catholicism with its regard for family, ritual and pageantry, compared, of course, only to Protestantism. Has meant, and you know, in particular Protestants' insistence that you work for God, be good through God, that work is ethical. You know, like, these ideas need to be challenged now, don't they? Because we're living in a time, according to Yuval Noah Harari, where, like, you know, 10, 20 years time, 50% of the bloody workforce is going to be defunct, fully automated employment. So we're going to need to have societies, particularly if the population continues to expand, where it's accepted that a large number of people aren't going to be able to work. We're already living in that because of we know there's a welfare state. We know that there is chronic poverty, homelessness, despair, mental health epidemic. So we're already living in that, but we're trying to continue with the same moral framework when it should be expunged because it's expired. That, well, if these people can't do jobs, if you can't become a lawyer, you deserve to be homeless. If you're going to sit around doing Percocet and fentanyl instead of writing a best-selling novel, then fuck you. You know, this is still tied into some beliefs that are not true. Why not have a certain percentage of the population engaged in meditation or different forms of service? Is it not questionable that your value as a human being is tied to your economic value? You know that economics is a construct, you know that capitalism is a construct, you know that consumerism is a construct, and the way that all these various influences interface with one another through media, that we're constantly bombarded. Even as you're consuming this, you will be consuming different types of messaging. Well, let me tell you, it's a choice. The same as being a Muslim is a choice, or being a Christian is a choice, or being an atheist is a choice. Except the power of consumerism and capitalism is neo-totalitarian in the territories we're speaking to, Anglophonic ones, developed European countries, forgive the use of the word developed. So, you know, because you could argue that to stay closer to an organic lifestyle may be better for you. There isn't a dichotomy here or a necessary oppositional disparity, i.e. it's not like, well, if you want to live in tribal, connected, communal cultures, you can't have a phone, you know, like. And as I think it was Owen Jones pointed out and reminded me the other day in an article he'd written, you know, like, entrepreneurialism is accredited with so much of our advance, i.e. the great example being the iPhone, but of course every aspect of iPhone technology was developed through government programs which you yourself funded until commercial interest took over, created the iPhone and sold the fucker right back to you. GPS, everything, all paid for. And as you can also see that in my Neil deGrasse Tyson Under the Skin episode, fantastic episode. We unpack that idea a little bit, the apparent objectivity with science. How objective is science if it's focused on a particular territories only, and the whole areas and regions go unfunded. So essentially what I'm saying is that the reason that motivational myths exist is because what you're being motivated towards is a construct. Another key aspect, of course, is that we have neglected our inner life, because in areas where there are markers like science, medicine, technology, we can see that there's an incredible advance, that a space shuttle is better than a horse and cart. There's no one, not even me, in my Luddite wonder and questioning that. We infer from that progress has been ubiquitous, but there are areas where we are arrested, or even, one could argue, regressed. Is it not possible to envisage a culture where it was just unacceptable to have poverty, where we took it for granted that we would spend a certain amount of our time helping one another, that we would spend more time in prayer, meditation and reflection regarding and evolving our inner life, the place, after all, where all innovation comes from, a connection to the inner life? No, every great act of ingenuity passes through human consciousness. Not a good idea then to spend some time, cultivating a deeper connection with the source of all this wonder? Of course it obviously is. What I'm saying is that the reason these myths about motivation exist is because they exist within a template that only affords you certain definitions of success. Think of the most beautiful and impressive people you've met in your life. Is it not like some loving grandmother, some kindly stranger, some quietly heroic public servant? Or is it always some mighty, priapic, presidential overlord, chest bursting forth into new horizons of success? So, question what success really means. These techniques, all spiritual techniques, if I may say so, trying to do your best, is realizing yourself, visualization. I hardly need tell you that that's a spiritual idea. Write down your goals. Success is guaranteed. Reflection, contemplation, all old ideas. So consider what success is. Perhaps we can be more successful if we start to think about the success of a broader remit than certainly the individual. Cultural success, social success, global success, and how each of us can participate in that if the means are available to us.